Welcome to a bonus episode of the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton and Wassman. So we've officially hit the midway point of the 2024 college football season. So over the next 2 weeks, we're going to do some midseason videos. This one is our midseason All-American team. Next week, our midseason awards as well. But Dawn, now we're at the midway point. We kind of know who the best players, who the best teams are shaping out to be. So it's good to kind of see what the All-American team looked like as of right now.
Absolutely, and there's some fantastic names on the list. On this list, some guys doing historic things, some guys bringing their programs to a resurgence, getting into playoff contention, and these are some of the names that you're going to hear in the NFL draft late, next year. This is a fun list, and I think you've got guys, especially a lot of transfer guys, right, who've been floating around. Some of these guys, big names who have moved different schools and now making a name for themselves at a new spot. But look, this is a talented list, and there's a lot of talented players I think we thought about that could have made the first team, that would definitely make at least the second team. But it's a fun list for sure, and it's always fun to do this halfway through the year.
Absolutely. So start off with the skill position players on offense. Leading it off with the quarterback, that is Cam Ward from Miami. The running back, by no doubt, is Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. Trey Harris leads off the receivers from Ole Miss. Tedder McMillan from Arizona, and Ty Felton from Maryland. And the tight end, Dalton, probably the hardest one I had to pick out of all of them. Tyler Warren we go with over Harold Fannin Jr. So we're going with Tyler Warren with Penn State, but Harold Fannin was right there because they're both putting up ridiculous numbers. But the fact that Warren is at least comparable to Fannin, and Warren's doing it at the Big Ten level, whereas Fannin's doing it at Bowling Green in the MAC, that's the ultimate deciding factor, but you could have gone with either one of them.
Absolutely, and look at Warren, especially coming off that game against USC. He had one of the all-time great games against USC, 224 yards, 17 catches, tied an FBS record. I think you look at him being the centerpiece of their offense right now. They are just, Andy Kotelnicki is finding a million different ways to get the ball to Tyler Warren. He's having a fantastic season, and he's really been the center of it. If they start surrounding him with more wide receivers who are producing at a high level like he is, Penn State's a really dangerous offense this year.
Absolutely. So is there anyone else in that skill position group that you wanted to point out here?
I mean, just Ashton Jeanty having an all-time great season. Yeah. And in some of these games, he's hardly playing in the second half. You look at a 98.5 rushing grade for the year, which would shatter the PFF single-season record, 1,248 yards. I thought something fun. Ashton Jeanty leading the nation in rushing, obviously, right? So you look at the top of the rushing list, okay? It's Ashton Jeanty, it's Caleb Johnson, and then the third highest number would be Ashton Jeanty yards after contact.
Yep.
I mean, it's just crazy how many tackles he's breaking, how many yards after contact he's getting. He told us in the preseason, or well before the preseason actually, that he was going to score 20 touchdowns this year. He's already at 17, and he's hardly being used as a receiver. It's incredible what he's doing, and he might just carry Boise State to a playoff berth.
Dalton, he has 912 yards after contact. The record for PFF since we started in 2014 is 1,355 by Jonathan Taylor in that 2017 year.
Shatter that. He might get that in the next 3 weeks.
He might, honestly. He right now is on pace for 1,824 yards after contact, which is nuts. And we're officially on Barry Sanders' watch right now with him, because Barry Sanders' record in 1988 of 2,628 rushing yards and 37 touchdowns. Jeanty is on pace for right around 2,500 and 34 rushing touchdowns. But keep in mind, this is 12-game pace. We're still talking about a Mountain West title game, maybe a playoff, a bowl game, maybe even if they don't make the playoff, maybe he plays in the bowl game just to get the record. We could be talking about literally the best statistical season we've ever seen by a running back.
Yeah, and huge game coming up soon against UNLV, right? We got that next week. That's going to be the game that really sets the road for the rest of the Mountain West and who's going to make the conference title game. And then, I mean, we could see a rematch, honestly, between those two in the title game. It's going to be a fascinating thing to watch the Mountain West the rest of the year.
Definitely. So maybe the hardest position to pick was tight end with Tyler Warren over Harold Fannin Jr., and the easiest position by far is Ashton Jeanty as our running back. Let's go over to the offensive line now for the first team All-American offensive line. As of right now, Wyatt Milam from West Virginia is the left tackle. Michael Ford Jr. from Kansas is the left guard. Connor Tollison, the center from Missouri. Willie Lampkin at right guard from North Carolina. And our right tackle is Spencer Fano from Utah. So, Dalton, out of the offensive linemen, who stands out to you?
That first one, Wyatt Milam, the year he's having at West Virginia. It's a guy you've talked about a lot, and you've said he's been the best offensive lineman in the country this year. He might be working his way into first-round consideration. Always been a really good pass blocker, adding it in with the run blocking now and leading. I believe he's leading the nation in overall grade right now. I mean, he's just had a spectacular year for West Virginia. Their offense can really get rolling when they get in rhythm with the run game and Garrett Green gets in his rhythm. But Wyatt Milam at left tackle is just a constant for them. He's been fantastic this year.
Absolutely. Spencer Fano, I'll just point out too, from Utah, his run blocking grade is like by far the best in the country. He's not really a great pass protector, but he is a dominant run blocker, which is why he's our first team All-American right tackle. So he's been really good. Willie Lampkin has been really, really good at right guard. Michael, obviously, all of them have been really good to make the first team All-American list. But I wanted to point out the two offensive tackles, and I will say Calvin Banks Jr. cutting him off this list was very hard. You know, Wyatt Milam, the grades are just that ridiculous for Wyatt Milam. The fact that he has an 85-plus pass blocking and run blocking grade as of this year really is the reason why he ultimately got it. But Calvin Banks Jr. has also been outstanding. And then mention that run blocking grade for Spencer Fano, 93.3. The next closest is Wyatt Milam at an 87.5. So Spencer Fano has been dominant in the run game this year for Utah, which they'll need because with Isaac Wilson now starting the rest of the year, they're really going to be relying on that run game with Mekhi Bernard and running to the right side behind Spencer Fano. That's probably their best course of action going forward.
No, absolutely. I think they're gonna ride Mekhi Bernard as long as they can over there at Utah. Now that Cam Rising, you mentioned, is out for the year, Isaac Wilson starting. Ride the run game, ride the defense, try to win low-scoring games, and having a guy like Fano blocking like that up front, that's a big help.
Yeah, speaking of the defense, let's go over to the defensive side of the ball and start off the All-American list there with the front seven. And starting off in the front seven is Derek Harmon, the D-tackle from Oregon. The other D-tackle, Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. The two edge defenders are Josiah Stewart from Michigan and Donovan Izuaku from Boston College. Jay Higgins, the linebacker from Iowa, and Chris Paul Jr., the linebacker from Ole Miss. So, Dalton, out of those guys, who stands out to you?
Two jump out to me. The improvement we've seen from Walter Nolan. You know, he had the 5-star pedigree at A&M, but he was always kind of playing. He played decent football, but not the level he's playing right now. He's one of the best run defenders in the country, and the combination of him and J.J. Pegues on the inside, just two massive guys on the inside, they've made Ole Miss an elite run defense, plugging the gaps inside and showing some flashes of pass rusher too. Walter Nolan, the improvement, and then Josiah Stewart right now is the highest graded defensive player in the country, and usually we think about that Michigan defensive line being Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant dominating on the inside. Well, Stewart, with all those one-on-one matchups he's getting, has just been spectacular this year. He's been honestly the most consistent pass rusher in college football this season. Michigan's got the highest pass rush grade in the country, and Stewart is a big reason for it on top of those two interior guys they have.
Yeah, so just real quick, it was Donovan Izuaku is how you pronounce that, and he's been outstanding for Boston College this year. He's been a great run defender, great pass rusher. I'll look at the defensive tackles real quick, though. Derek Harmon, I mean, two guys are transfers, and Derek Harmon and Walter Nolan, they've been great for their respective programs. And again, really hard to kick out Mason Graham for this lesson. He was right there as well. But just want to shout out both Derek Harmon and Walter Nolan because they are both been outstanding, both as pass rushers and as run defenders. Harmon specifically has been racking up pressures this year and doing really well as a run defender. He's like a 95 run defense grade as well in a recent game. So, yeah, both of them have been outstanding, and both of them show why they're first team All-Americans right now. And then, honestly, Dalton, when I was making this list, linebacker is really easy as well. Jay Higgins and Chris Paul Jr. are really separating themselves from everyone else in the country, it feels like. And not too surprising for Jay Higgins, but it's really good to see Chris Paul Jr., the transfer from Arkansas, in that Ole Miss defense now. Ole Miss, all of a sudden, is now a defensive team, it feels like, right now with that front seven they have. And obviously, Walter Nolan's been great. Princely Mamielan's been great. The entire defensive line has been great, honestly, too. And then Chris Paul Jr. holding it down at linebacker. That front seven for Ole Miss has been nasty.
Absolutely has. And it's surprising to see Ole Miss struggling with the fact that their defense is this good, because we just assumed coming into the year they would have a top 5 offense in the country, and that hasn't been the case, especially in SEC play. If their offense can get it together in time for the Georgia game and maybe run the table here and still go 10-2, then they get to be really dangerous. But the defense has stepped up for them all year, absolutely.
Definitely. Let's go over to our secondary now for our first team All-American secondary. Jamari Harris from Iowa, the corner. Jahdae Barron from Texas, the other corner. Xavier Watts, the safety. Lathan Ransom from Ohio State, the safety. And honestly, Dalton, the last safety spot for Lathan Ransom, it was between him and his teammate, Caleb Downs. I was really debating between those two. I gave it to Ransom, though, because his grade is a little bit better so far this year. But either of those two could have been the pick for safety because they've both been excellent.
Ransom's had a spectacular year, and he's such a versatile versatile player. I like how he can play deep. He can play back there in deep halves in tandem with Downs. He can play on the slot. He's got a lot of experience in the slot. He's a really good run defender. I think, it was one of the moves that we noticed with Ohio State in the offseason. They were moving Sonny Styles up to linebacker, and he's been really good. But who's the other guy along with Caleb Downs? Lathan Ransom has filled that. He's filled that space just in a fantastic fashion. And Ohio State, just a terrific defense, and they get more and more players stepping up for them. It's going to continue to carry them a long way.
Absolutely. And then looking at Jamari Harris for me real quick, he has been awesome for Iowa this year. 27 targets, 10 catches allowed, 37% completion rate, 3 interceptions as well, 6 forced incompletions, and a dropped interception as well. He has as many plays on the football as allowed catches this year. Jamari Harris, yes, they lost Cooper DeJean and some other key players in the secondary, but Jamari Harris has been a star for Iowa, the new star corner for Iowa in a secondary. So, Dalton, usually on offense and defense, we have one flex player, right? Because we have one guy that could throw in there as a flex for offense and one guy you can throw as a flex for defense. We're going to have one flex player total on this All-America team because it has to be Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter and what he's done for Colorado this year has to be our flex on both sides of the ball because he's an elite receiver, he's an elite corner, and like I said, you usually have one flex player for each side of the ball. We had to shout him out as the only flex player in the entire team because he quite literally is a flex player for Colorado.
He's our first super flex. Let's go with that.
There we go. Yeah.
And you really, the shoulder injury against Kansas State, you could argue it cost them the game, right? If they have Travis Hunter in that game, they probably would have beat Kansas State because Shedeur Sanders was rolling even without 3 of his top 5 receivers. But no, what Hunter's doing right now, it's just beyond ridiculous. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just unprecedented, right? When you talk about a top 10 receiver in the country, at least by the grading, and probably higher than that when you really watch him. He's got one of the best coverage grades in the country. He is just if he can be healthy for every game, and not suffer injuries like he did in the Kansas State game. He's the best football player in the country. I don't really think there's a question about it. The fact that he's a lights-out corner, going to be a fun matchup this week against Tetero McMillan against Arizona, and he's really, you could argue he's the key to their season, right? They've improved on defense all around. We can see that. The run defense, obviously Shedeur is elite, but Hunter's the guy who really makes Colorado different, right? Nobody else has a Travis Hunter. And I think when you talk about their conference chances, their playoff chances, it's really going to ride. It really could ride with his health, the difference between 7 or 8 and maybe even 10 wins for them.
Yeah, absolutely. He's on pace for 1,100 receiving yards, 12 touchdowns, and then he's still a top 10 corner in the country. To me, I think the Heisman Trophy is really down to Ashton Jeanty versus Travis Hunter. I do not think a quarterback should win it this year because we are having a historic year for a running back in Ashton Jeanty, and we're having a historic year in Travis Hunter because we've never seen this before. We've never seen a guy be this good on both sides of the ball. We've seen guys play both sides of the ball before, but never at this level. Travis Hunter is truly a superstar on both sides of the ball, which is why he's our flex player right here and why ultimately he's a top Heisman Trophy candidate right now. Of course, we cannot forget about the special teams though, Dalton. So let's go over our special teamers for our midseason All-American team. Our kicker is Alex Rayner from Kentucky. Our punter is Brett Thorson from Georgia. Our return specialist is Rayshawn Pleasant from Tulane. And of course, because we have long snapping grades, we got to go with Bryce Robinson from Kennesaw State. How about the Kennesaw State Owls in their first year as an FBS program have a midseason All-American right now? So love the fact that Eli found a picture of Bryce Robinson to put on the graphic. And he really has been really good this year for the Owls.
Absolutely. Look, it's good to get a team. Kennesaw State in their first year in the FBS gets a midseason All-American. Got to love that. But no, the guy that jumps out to me there, honestly, is Brett Thorson, the punter, highest graded punter in the country right now. And I think, wasn't there a stat that last year he didn't allow a single punt to be returned?
Something like that, yeah.
Well, this year, one has been returned, and it went for -4 yards. As if Georgia needed any more tools in the box to work with. Right now, they have the best punter in the country. Maybe they don't have to use him as often as some other teams have to use their punter, like Torrey Taylor winning it last year, right? But no, Thorson, just to have another weapon like that, and Kirby Smart, obviously, still being in a defense and kind of complimentary football coach, it's great to have that guy in his team.
Definitely. I want to go to Bryce Robinson, our guy, real quick. 90.3 long snapping grade this year. That is about 7 points higher than any other long snapper in the country. He has one bad snap on 24 long snapping snaps, 24 snaps for punting, and 0 bad snaps on 16 field goals plus extra points this year. So he has been extremely accurate. Also has 3 tackles as well. Bryce Robinson, currently the highest graded long snapper in the country, which is why he's our first team midseason All-American from Kennesaw State. But again, this is our midseason All-American team. We have a long way to go before we get to our actual All-American team at the end of the year, but it's kind of a good barometer just to see where teams and players are at the midway point of the season. Next week, after what should be another great week of college football, we'll be doing our midseason awards because college football, of course, has so many individual awards they give out at the end of the year, and we'll do that as well. We'll go over who the Heisman Trophy winner should be, the Biletnikoff winner should be, a bunch of other awards as well. So I'm really looking forward to our awards episode next week. That should be a lot of fun too.
Absolutely, and I think both for this first team All-American spot and the O'Brien Award at quarterback. I think Cam Ward right now, he's had the two big comebacks, had a great season, highest graded passer right now, but there's going to be a race. I mean, you got some guys, Shedeur Sanders has played well all year, Dylan Gabriel maybe is starting to get hot, Carson Beck might be starting to get hot, Jalen Milroe's been great all year. I think some of these quarterback awards too are going to go right down to the wire.
Yeah, the one that probably won't is the Doak Walker Award. I'm pretty sure we can write in ink that Ashton Jeanty's won that award. Yeah. But midseason awards coming out next week. But appreciate you guys watching our midseason All-American team. And once again, Sunday morning at 9 a.m. we'll be going live with our Week 8 review, going over the biggest results from what should be an incredible Week 8 of college football. So tune in Sunday morning at 9 a.m. This wraps up our midseason 2024 PFF All-American team.